You ever notice a small pattern and just click, and you think, aha, I get it. I see what's going on here. Well, it turns out there's a name for that feeling. It's called the law of small numbers, and it's a really common thinking error that, as we're about to find out, is probably affecting your judgment way more than you even realize.
And that just feels right, doesn't it? A couple of wins in a row, a few friends from the same town who all act a certain way, a new marketing idea that works the first 2 times you try it. These things feel so convincing. The story they tell is simple, it's clear, and boy is it compelling. And that's the big question, isn't it? Just because a story feels right, does that actually make it true? Our brains are so quick to just accept the narrative. But when we take a closer look, we see that small numbers can be very, very misleading. So let's talk about the small numbers trap. We're going to break down exactly what this cognitive bias is and get into why our minds are so wired to believe that just a tiny slice of something represents the entire pie.
So there it is. At its heart, the law of small numbers is really all about overconfidence. It's our brain's natural tendency to take a tiny bit of information and treat it like it's the gospel truth, like a perfect little snapshot of the big picture. But as we'll see, that's almost never how it really works.
So why are we so vulnerable to this? Look, this isn't some logical failing on our part. It's actually a deep-seated feature of how our minds are built. Let's dive into the psychological pull that makes these little stories so irresistible.
First off, our brain is a pattern-detecting machine. It's a survival mechanism, right? We're constantly looking for cause and effect, for some kind of order in all the chaos, because that's what helps us make sense of the world and guess what's coming next.
And this is where that pattern detector just goes into overdrive. When we see something happen just twice, maybe 3 times in a row, our brain flags it as being super significant. That consistency feels intentional. It doesn't feel like some random fluke.
Now, the flip side of that is that true randomness, well, it often feels wrong to us. It's messy. It has all these unpredictable swings that can look really suspicious. We might see a totally normal random streak and convince ourselves there has to be some hidden reason for it. So, here's the crucial takeaway from all this. This combination, our constant search for patterns and our distrust of pure randomness, it leads us to create something called illusory order. We see trends and connections and tiny sets of data with so much confidence, when in reality, it's all just noise. Okay, so this is more than just a fun fact about how our brains work. How does this quirk actually become a problem in the real world? Well, the law of small numbers has tangible and sometimes pretty dangerous consequences in our everyday lives. And you've seen these examples everywhere. You visit a new city, have 2 bad experiences, and you immediately declare the whole place is unfriendly. That's the law of small numbers. Or you see a basketball player hit 3 shots in a row and you think they're on fire, when it could just be statistics. Or a company sees 1 good week of sales for a new product and immediately sinks millions more into it, only to find out it was a complete fluke. And the stakes can get really high here. This isn't just about being a little bit wrong. It leads to genuinely bad decisions. We end up creating false patterns. We get way too confident based on limited info. We make awful predictions, and this one's maybe the most damaging. We form and spread stereotypes about entire groups of people, all based on a tiny, totally unrepresentative sample.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the problem. It's a powerful inverse relationship. The less information you have, the more likely you are to be dramatically wrong. The potential for error isn't just a little bigger, it's absolutely massive.
Okay, so we've defined the trap, we've seen the dangers, but here's the good news. We can learn to avoid it. So let's go through a 4-step toolkit you can use to develop a much clearer, more accurate sense of judgment.
All right, here's your practical guide. First, just get in the habit of asking, how much data is this really based on? Second, expect things to be a little wild at first. Big swings are totally normal in small samples, so don't be surprised by them. Third, be patient. You have to let more information come in before you jump to a conclusion. And finally, get better at telling the signal apart from the noise. Sometimes a coincidence is really just a coincidence, not a sign from the universe.
So as we wrap things up here, the lesson really boils down to one central idea: the incredible value of what you might call intellectual patience.
When it comes down to it, it's this simple. Small samples give you a fantastic story, but it's often a work of fiction. Large samples, they might be less dramatic, but they're what reveal a reliable pattern. We're trading that thrill of illusory order for the real power of stronger evidence. We're moving from a high chance of being wrong to a growing confidence in being right.
And that is the ultimate takeaway. That rush to make a judgment call,
It's a trap. Clear, effective thinking isn't about having the fastest answer. It's about having the right answer. And that often means just waiting, gathering more evidence, and resisting the pull of a really good story until you know it's also a true one. So, the next time you spot a little pattern, what are you going to ask yourself before you believe the story it's trying to tell you?